Otto, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I will add, thank you so much for the link to the newsletter as well. I did take a look at it, and as you said, it is very informative and has a number of very good articles in it. So congratulations on the launch of that publication.
I appreciate it. It was a passion project, and it's just when you're interested in this kind of stuff, it's always it's fun to do. It took a lot of time, but it couldn't be done without a contribution of a lot of colleagues, all the articles, and hopefully I'm going to put you on the spot. Hopefully get an article on your Consular Corner section for you at the next one or whenever you have the time. But I'll separate, send you an email about that. So let us know, what is to start with, just your practice right now. Your immigration attorney in San Francisco. What kind of cases do you handle, and then we'll go back to your history.
So the kinds of cases that our firm handles is primarily employment-based immigration, but not entirely. We also do a little bit of the other things that tend to come up. Part of it is because we have clients from all over the world, and they may start with us for an investor visa or for an intercompany transferee or something like that, something connected with the business. But everyone has a life and family issues and so forth, and so as a result, we do take other cases. And then, of course, before COVID, we maintained an active office presence. We still have an office in Palo Alto, an office in Montreal. We're just now opening an office in London as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and so.
In the foreign offices, do you also handle local immigration, global migration, or is it like U.S. immigration in those countries?
At the moment, it's focused on U.S. immigration, but that is the goal eventually, is to be a global immigration law firm, or maybe a better way to put it is a global mobility law firm.
Yeah. How many attorneys does your firm have currently?
We're small still, so I can count them on our hand.
Yeah.
So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attorneys.
For immigration, that's big, but that's wonderful. Making international presence. It's a big thing to do, and it's it's a lot of moving parts you got to keep an eye on.
It is, and it's one of the challenges I think that we face as a firm. That's something in common with our clients as well, because they're thinking in terms of global mobility. We are as well, but this past year we faced this bigger challenge of, for the clients, many of them not being able to go to a consulate for an interview, or having an interview scheduled, but then having it canceled and then rescheduled and then canceled again. And so that's just the nature of the practice. But with those challenges, it's also a chance for opportunities. I think just as our clients are more determined than ever to try to increase their businesses or provide for their family members who want to join in the United States, that's what we see as well. That we need to try to make a better effort to meet them and to try to meet their needs. There's been a lot of changes in immigration law over the last 4 years, I expect, with just today's announcement about the Biden administration's new immigration proposal. There will be even more.
Yeah, we'll see. Did they announce it yet? Biden plan to include. Still haven't fully announced what the bill is going to be, but we'll see what happens when they're just making the sausage, see what comes out. But you have a lot of experience with global migration. You were consular officer. Let's go back. When did you first enter the service, the foreign service?
So actually, I want to go back a little bit even before that, because I started as an attorney first. And I practiced law in Texas for a firm that was doing a lot of different things. In Texas, oil and gas law, but also securities law, corporate law, a little bit of family law as well. Again, because of the nature of the practice, some real estate law, and even some criminal law. And then I moved to Arizona, practiced law for a while there, on the dependent sovereign nation of the Navajo Nation, which was sort of my first introduction to working and living in a different country. I did try to learn a little bit of Navajo as well. And then I joined the service, the Foreign Service. The State Department took a little bit of time to catch up with me because I'd taken the Foreign Service exam when I was still in law school. And so 5 years later, I joined the Foreign Service. And at the time, the Foreign Service, you didn't start as a consular officer or economics officer or political officer. You came in without a specialty. And so that's what I did. And so I served a tour in Merida, Mexico, and then Bogota, Colombia, as a consular officer, and then I moved on to doing many other things, working in France, in Geneva, at the U.S. Mission to the United Nations, in Baghdad, where I was the curious title of petroleum chief. So I was in charge of Iraq's oil, even though that wasn't the reason why the U.S. entered into a conflict with Iraq. And where else? I was in Kabul, Afghanistan, where I had another cool, I thought it was a pretty interesting diplomatic title. I was the Deputy Director for Rule of Law. So I was working on legal issues, but it really was legislative issues and justice sector reform issues, as well as working with the World Bank and the United Nations Assistance Mission to Afghanistan once again. And I also served as Consul General in Russia and back again in Matamoros, Mexico, which was my last post.
Now, like when you're at these posts, did you always do consular on the ground, or a lot of them were just political, so you weren't dealing with visas and stuff?
So it was a lot of different things. Many of my tours were working as economic officers, and I did take a full year of training in economics, so I can now remember about supply and demand, and I know enough to get myself into trouble. But the last 2 tours where I was Consul General, I was supervising the political section, the management section, but then also the consular section. And so I also was responsible for reviewing the work of the consular sections, which is something that I've talked about before, that for most people, when you have the consular interview, you have the decision and you either are approved or you're not approved, and that's it. Sometimes, though, we get into the administrative processing or the request for more evidence, and so you do have a little bit further interaction, but there is also a chance for review at the consular level of your case, which is not very common, but it can happen. Well, I want to differentiate. There is an automatic review internally. What is not very common is the applicant asking for a reconsideration of the case, but that can happen, and sometimes it's easier to do than just reapplying again, which most people think of it as the easiest thing to do. They'll think of, okay, well, this interview didn't go so well with this particular consular officer. There is this idea of consular non-reviewability, and so then we regroup, maybe talk with counsel, figure out a better approach, and then just reapply. And that certainly is another option for many consular applicants as well. And that's, in fact, I think the vast majority of cases go through that route.